In the vast oceans of the early 20th century, a battleship was created designed to eclipse all others. It was calibrated with 9 18.1-inch guns, the heaviest and most powerful ever mounted on a warship. Weighing at almost 73,000 tons, the ship was protected by unparalleled armor and boasted an array of secondary armaments. It was a floating fortress waiting to be unleashed. It was the Yamato, and every detail, every curve of its design showcased the might of the Japanese Empire. But underneath that brazen gusto lay quiet desperation. The numerically superior fleet of the United States threatened to dispose of Japan from the Pacific. The limitations imposed by the Washington Naval Treaty of 1922 left the Japanese Navy at a disadvantage compared to its rivals. The treaty aimed to prevent an arms race amongst the major naval powers following World War I, bearing the signatures of 5 nations: the United States, the British Empire, France, Italy, and the Empire of Japan. Within the intricately crafted clauses of this treaty dictated the tonnage and number of battleships and aircraft carriers each nation could possess. A capital ship ratio was devised, allowing the United States and the British Empire 5 tons of naval vessels for every 3 tons allotted to Japan, and 1.75 for France and Italy. The Japanese perceived this numerical disadvantage as a snub, a diplomatic slight that undermined their nation's status. Concurrently, the geopolitical landscape was changing and new threats began to loom. The Japanese government had ambitions to ascend to a status that would place them amongst the world's leading powers, securing resources in East Asia and the Pacific. But it was coming into direct conflict with other powers, particularly the U.S. naval might, and the limitations of the treaty chafed against Imperial Japan's strategic interests, and so they secured an ultra-nationalist militancy view. In 1934, Japan withdrew from the Washington Naval Treaty, renouncing its obligations. The architects of Japan's naval strategy recognized they couldn't compete with the U.S. Navy's superior numbers should war break out, so they decided to forge something entirely different: the Yamato Battleship. It was November 4th, 1937. A beast began to take form in the shipyards of Kure, Japan. The dock's very foundations had to be adapted for the ship's massive hull. It was deepened, and gantry cranes capable of lifting 350 tons were installed. Such was the secrecy surrounding its construction that a canopy was erected to hide the ship from prying eyes. Named after the ancient Japanese province, the Yamato was no ordinary battleship. It stretched 263 meters or 863 feet in length with a width of 38.9 meters or 128 feet. It had a draft of 11 meters or 36 feet. Its displacement stood at an astonishing 65,000 tons, and it moved through the waters at 27 knots or 50 kilometers per hour. Within its steel body, nearly 2,500 people served, a floating city armed and ready for battle. However, the most fearsome feature of the ship was its main guns. The Yamato's main battery consisted of 9 .45 caliber, 46 centimeter Type 94 guns, the largest ever fitted to a warship. Each gun was over 21 meters long and weighed almost 1,500 tons. These Titans could launch shells over 42 kilometers. Accompanying the main guns was a fearsome array of secondary armaments, including 12 155mm guns, 12 12.7 centimeter guns, and an ever-changing configuration of anti-aircraft guns that eventually numbered 162. The Yamato was a leviathan ready to maim its enemies, and on August 8, 1940, it was launched alongside its twin Musashi. In early June of 1944, Yamato and Musashi were requisitioned as troop transports, part of a grand scheme to reinforce the garrison and naval defenses of the distant island of Biak. However, this mission would be suddenly and dramatically aborted. Word of American carrier attacks on the Mariana Islands reached Ozawa's headquarters. The Imperial Japanese Navy reorganized, concentrating its remaining strength on a defiant challenge to the oncoming American fleet. Outgunned and facing an enemy superior in both numbers and experience, the entire Japanese Navy braced for what would be a decisive clash. The grand stage was set for the Battle of the Philippine Sea, a confrontation that would later be dubbed by American pilots as the Great Marianas Turkey Shoot. From June 19th to the 23rd, the Yamato escorted the forces of Ozawa's mobile fleet into battle. What unfolded was a brutal and unforgiving engagement. The Japanese suffered heavy losses, with 3 aircraft carriers destroyed and 426 aircraft lost in the relentless fight. Yamato's role was both muted and marred by a tragic mistake. The mighty battleship mistakenly opened fire on its returning aircraft. Following the bitter defeat, Yamato withdrew with the Mobile fleet to the Hashirajima staging area near Kure, then left Japan on July 8th towards south for the Linga Islands. On October 1944, the Philippine waters became the stage for the Battle of Leyte Gulf, one of the largest naval engagements in history. Admiral Takeo Kurita's center force, with Yamato at its core, answered the call of Operation Shogo, the Japanese response to the American invasion of the Philippines. On October 18th, the mighty Yamato was given a dark coating of black camouflage for its nighttime transit through San Bernardino Strait, so the Japanese could land on Leyte. However, en route to their destination on October 23rd, a hostile welcome was in store for them as USS Darter and Dace struck hard at Kurita's force in the Palawan Passage. 2 heavy cruisers were sunk, and Kurita's flagship Atago was lost. Undaunted, Kurita transferred his flag to Yamato. October 24th marked the Battle of the Sibuyan Sea. The center force was ravaged in a battle. A heavy cruiser was lost, and the fleet's anti-aircraft defense was shattered. Yamato faced the fury of the USS Essex, enduring 2 bomb hits and a near miss. The behemoth took on water but remained resolute and ready for battle. Yamato's sister ship Musashi, however, was relentlessly attacked and sent to a watery grave. Then it was October 25th, the last day of the engagements. Unbeknownst to Admiral Kurita, the American battle group under the command of Admiral William Halsey Jr. departed the Leyte Gulf. He was convinced that Kurita's force was turned back and decided to pursue the Japanese Northern Force, a decoy group. The Japanese trap was sprung. Kurita's force navigated the San Bernardino Strait and attacked the American formation known as Taffy 3. Yamato engaged enemy surface targets for the only time in its career, landing hits on the USS Gambier Bay, but a spread of torpedoes forced Yamato away from the fight. The light American surface combatants attacked with ferocity, leading Kurita to believe he faced a full American task force. A mistaken report spurred Kurita to disengage. Yamato emerged without serious damage, having suffered only 3 near misses from bombs and some casualties. The center force sank 1 American escort carrier, 2 destroyers, and a destroyer escort. A second American escort carrier was lost to a kamikaze attack. Yamato and the remnants of Kurita's force withdrew to Brunei. Losses continued to mount as Yamato's battle group was attacked by the submarine USS Sea Lion, leading to the loss of the battleship Congo. Yamato was immediately dry docked for repairs and anti-aircraft upgrades, a pause in the relentless war. On November 25th, Captain Aruga Kosaku was named Yamato's commander. Operation Tengo, the last major Japanese naval operation during World War II, commenced on April 6, 1945, as a desperate response to the Allied invasion of Okinawa. It was the last involvement of Yamato in a battle. After all, it was a one-way mission to attack the Allied forces. Alongside Yamato were the cruiser, Yahagi, and 8 destroyers. The Japanese plan was undermined when the Allies intercepted their communications and spotted the force preparing for the incoming assault. The American carrier strike force, led by Admirals Raymond Spruance and Mark Mitcher, coordinated attacks against Yamato and its escorts. Beginning on the dawn of April 7th, a series of relentless air attacks bombarded Yamato and its group. The coordinated efforts of 280 bomber and torpedo bomber aircraft severely crippled Yamato's anti-aircraft defenses, causing significant damage and casualties. A series of 3 major attacks followed, leading to the sinking of Yahagi and the relentless assault on Yamato. Its anti-aircraft guns were overwhelmed, and torpedoes and bombs inflicted critical damage, causing it to lose speed and listing. Eventually, the order was given to abandon ship, but it was too late. Yamato capsized and experienced a massive explosion, likely from its forward magazines, resulting in a mushroom cloud visible for miles. Of the estimated 3,332 crew, 3,055 lost their lives, including Fleet Commander Vice Admiral Seiichi Ito. The failure of Operation Tengo marked the end of the Japanese battleships and the utter decimation of the Imperial Japanese Navy's remaining surface strength. In the depths of the East China Sea, the remnants of the mighty Yamato lay hidden. It was only in 1984 that one of the ship's designers, Shigeru Makino, confirmed Yamato's identity through the photographic and video records of the expedition. It lies under 340 meters of water. A 9-minute video of the Yamato is shown at the Yamato Museum in Kure.